Welcome to Fiji, known for its remote islands swimming with gentle giants. This is the Yasawa Islands. In this travel guide, we're going to show you our 10-day island hopping itinerary, from fishing with the islanders to coming face to face with one of the ocean giants. This video will help you make the most of your Yasawa adventure. So, let's get down to it. Now, we began our adventure in Fiji's gateway city of Nadi. We were picked up by the bus transfer, dropped off at Port Denarau, collected our Yasawa flyer tickets and checked in our bags. Now, to avoid a lot of stress, make sure to withdraw plenty of cash before leaving the mainland. There is a very handy ATM at the marina. We finally boarded the Yasawa flyer and now en route to the Yasawa Islands. After 2.5 hours we had arrived. The ferry stopped, our accommodation was called, we looked for our bags and then hopped onto a speedboat as we headed for Waya Lailai Island. We made it ashore and was greeted by the village, and we made a couple of friends along the way. In the evening we had a Sevu officially welcoming us into the village, and after a couple of belos of grog we headed for bed as we couldn't wait to explore the island tomorrow. Another day in paradise as we set off to what islanders say is their most hidden treasure. To find it, we needed to go over to the other side of the island, so we jumped on a boat nice and early, hoping to arrive before low tide, and after 20 minutes we finally arrived at Lailai Sandbar. At low tide, this sandbar connects the islands together, allowing the locals just to walk between the two. Now, unfortunately, we arrived a bit after low tide, so our crossing was a bit on the choppy side. We did see the local school run coming through, and they shouted and waved bula to us as we reached the other side before we headed back to the village. This has to be one of the most remote and stunning places we have ever been to. Next, we're going to hike to the summit of the island. Now, one of the boys from the village took us up on this jungle trek, and he certainly led us up for a bit of an adventure. From moments of scrambling up a cliff to some of the most breathtaking views of the islands. We were hiking up for well over an hour, and you really started to feel exposed to the elements. This last bit of the climb was so tricky, but after one last scramble, we made it to the summit. It was blowing a gale up here, but the views of the islands were absolutely incredible. Now, the next challenge was actually working out how to get down. It was even more sketchy than getting up, to be honest, but we did manage to get back just before darkness had set in, and we were so happy to have some food before we get ready to go to the next island tomorrow. Back on the Yasawa flyer as we head for the Northern Islands. We just about made it back onto the ferry after there was some essential maintenance. Now, it's really important to note that the main ferry route runs on a daily out and back system, so you're going to need to plan your travel flow in advance. Now, this is the longest leg of the trip, crossing 2 exposed sections of open ocean, and if the weather does turn, it can become a bit of a bumpy ride. And after multiple drop-offs and over 3 hours of travelling, we finally arrived to Nanuya Lailai Island. We hopped off the Yasawa flyer and was picked up by our host Vasily. He took us back to his lovely home on the east side of the island. Not long after arriving, we made friends with Blackie, Whiskey and Rex. But then out of nowhere, the weather took a turn for the worse, and it was absolutely pouring it down. We ran over to the main house and Vasily whipped up a lovely dinner for us as we took shelter for the evening. What a beautiful morning we have before we begin our action-packed day. Vili filled us up with tons of food before we headed out on our fishing trip. We first needed to catch some bait, and Vili was on the hunt for some crabs. It didn't take him long to find his first victim.
End of view. Bye bye.
With plenty of bait, we were back on the boat and now ready to get fishing. Vili launched his line in, and it didn't take him long to get going. Now, Vili was just putting us to shame, as we could only get little ones at best. I was mostly just reeling in hooks with no bait. I was just beginning to give up, but then I felt a tug on the line, and I'm not sure how, but I actually caught a fish. I was so happy, I couldn't believe it. I think I wasn't the only one who was surprised. We were back on the island for lunch and Billy cooked up one of his big catches and it was just so good, it doesn't get fresher than that. Next we head over to Nacula Island as Billy took us to the Yasawa Islands rugby tournament. After 30 minutes on the boat we had arrived at the island and we found a good spot to watch some Fijian grassroots rugby. With plenty of big blows and some silky skills, the atmosphere was just so good. Once the tournament wrapped up, everyone slowly left the island and we made our way back home too. The sun began to set around us and the sea was so calm. What an incredible day we've just had. But tomorrow is the big one as we go to see the Sawa-i-Lau Caves. We're up bright and early as we head over to the caves. Billy made sure we had plenty of food before we set course for the Sawa-i-Lau Island. It was about a 45-minute boat trip to get to the island, and once we got there it was about a 5-minute walk up and down some steps before reaching the entrance of the cave. We hopped in from the ladder and the main chamber was huge. The water was pretty deep and fairly clear, and we even got to see the odd red snapper. We perched ourselves on a rock waiting for our turn to go into the second dark chamber. We were a bit nervous for the next chamber, but Billy gave us plenty of reassurance as we did need it. A big breath in and then diving into pure darkness. We followed the light of the torch and Billy was there waiting for us on the other side. We held on to the float and found a rock to perch on whilst Billy told us stories of the legend of the cave. We swam through the chamber and then dived down to see where the water actually enters the cave. This was so cool. We made it back to the first chamber and we were welcomed to see the daylight again. We left the island and couldn't believe we did it. We definitely couldn't have done it without Billy though. He's been an unbelievable host and staying with him has been honestly an absolute dream. From the idyllic surroundings, adorable pets, incredible food, and even his own ice cream shop. Voyager Retreat has honestly been by far our favourite stay in the Yasawas, and for only £20 a night is incredible value. We've enjoyed every moment and we won't be forgetting Billy anytime soon. A new day and a new island to visit. We sadly say goodbye to Billy as he took us to the Yasawa Flyer drop-off. We were picked up and now heading for Matacawalevu Island. We arrived after 30 minutes and it didn't take long to get to know our new family. Now we were looking to do the sunset hike and our guide to reach the summit would be JJ. We were heading for the rock on the hill and navigating through all the foliage was honestly impossible. We could barely see over the grass, but JJ kept us on track. Now we've been hiking for well over an hour and all of a sudden you could just start to see the Yasawas in all of its glory. The views up here were just insane. Now we did get back home just before dark, but thank God we had JJ, otherwise we'd still be hiking. Today we head for the Yasawa's Blue Lagoon beach. Located on the west side of Nanuya Lailai Island, not too far away from us, so we hopped on a boat and within 20 minutes we'd arrived at the famous Blue Lagoon. I mean, this place is pure postcard material. The white sand, the palm trees, the stunning water, it's the absolute definition of tropical paradise. But the magic of this place is really what's going on under the water. After snorkeling for hours, it was time to head back, but this place is honestly ridiculously idyllic, and it's definitely somewhere you can't miss when you're in the Yasawas. Once we got back, we started to get ready for dinner. We filled our boots in with loads of good food, and ended the day with a big old Kava sesh, as we look forward to exploring the next island tomorrow. Today we leave the northern part of the Yasawas as we head back down to the Gateway Islands. Once the Yasawa Flyer arrived, we made sure to latch on before we said our goodbyes and hopped aboard. We headed straight up to the top deck as we had a long journey ahead, but the views of the islands were stunning and made 4 hours just drift by. We'd arrived at our destination and it was time to disembark and head back to Waya Lailai Island. But this time we stayed at the locally run Waya Lailai Eco Haven Resort. And the perk of this place is that they offer some of the best marine life encounters in the Yasawas. What a beautiful day of snorkeling we have ahead. As well as offering incredible marine life encounters, this resort also has its own coral reef just off the beach. It's like an underwater city, busy with life. Next, we hopped on a boat as we go to swim with some sharks. We headed out for about 40 minutes to a remote coral reef. We had arrived and my heart was pounding. I was so nervous, but here we go. We were completely surrounded by sharks, mostly white tips and black tips. It was so surreal. I can't express how fun this was, and it wouldn't have been the same without Mesa and Captain Joe. They made me feel so comfortable with the uncomfortable, and it's such a great way to see these incredible creatures in their natural environment. Up for sunrise as we hope to see the elusive Manta Ray. We had a 40-minute boat ride to get to the Drawanga Passage, and we needed to be there at high tide to maximise our chances. As we were waiting for high tide, Collie decided to take me spearfishing. It didn't take him long to get his first catch, but we soon hopped back onto the boat as we had some unwanted guests. Now the water today was so calm, and Collie was concerned we might not see the mantas in these conditions. We jumped into the passage and slowly drifted through. Initially it was really cloudy, and then some shimmering of light before an abundance of life. I've never seen anything like it. We were nearing the end of the passage, and out of nowhere we could finally see a glowing figure of a manta ray. As it gracefully glided off into the distance, another manta appeared. To be in the presence of these giants was truly a privilege and a proper pinch yourself moment. After what has been an unforgettable trip for many reasons, it's time to head back to the mainland. Now if you're planning your own Yasawa trip, we've pinned all the places from this video into one simple Google map. From the snorkeling spots to the ferry stops, everything you need to make the most of your Yasawa adventure. You'll find the link in the description below, and until the next pin drop.